Hey there, the Games Apprentice back with another Evercade video, and this week I'm going to be taking a look at the Technos Arcade Collection 1. Is it a stellar 8-game collection, or is it just something you're going to want to block out? Let's find out. Technos Japan began its life in a single-room apartment in 1981, as 3 former staff members from Data East got together to make a game. That game was Minky Monkey, which first hit the arcade scene in 1982. Initially, Technos had to work alongside other companies to get their games published, but they hit the big time with their long-running range of Kunio-kun games, and of course their legendary series of belt-scrolling beat-em-ups in the Double Dragon series. Technos left the scene in 1996, but they left an incredible legacy behind. There are 8 games on this one, none of which I've played before, and I got to play some of them multiplayer. So here they are ranked from worst to best. As a general rule, if it's on Evercade and it's a wrestling game, it's bad. And I'm one of those weird people that loves wrestling games. Mania Challenge is absolutely no exception to that rule. It plays like most old wrestling games, but faster. You can run, punch, kick and grapple, leading to bigger moves. You can also do running dives over the top rope, which is pretty impressive for a 1986 wrestling game, considering you wouldn't expect to see that very often in actual wrestling back then. It doesn't have licensed characters, but the likeness of the Road Warriors, for example, are pretty obvious. One of the main issues with the game is the timer. The 3-minute timer ticks down very quickly, actually giving you more like 2 minutes, giving you little time to deal out enough damage to get the win, leading to plenty of draws. The screen's also really small, and in 2-player mode it always follows player 1, which is really frustrating. Clearly most of the work in this one, like most wrestling games, went into the animation of the moves and on little else. I played a lot of Double Dragon as a kid, but I don't think I ever played Double Dragon 2, and if I did, it wouldn't have been this version, but it'd have been a NES port. The main problem with this game is that it's borderline unplayable, which should tell you how rubbish the wrestling game which was placed before it is. Once you get more than a couple people on the screen, the speed grinds down to slow motion and it's infuriating. This must be down to the emulation. I can't imagine an arcade game being released like this. Beyond the slowdown, the game isn't too bad. It's pretty tough, especially in single player, but it looks pretty cool, and you can do double team attacks where one of you holds the opponent and the other hits them. You've got grabs, punches, kicks and jumps. The fact you can hit the other player always seems a bit harsh for an arcade game though, and it's a real shame about the slowdown as it completely ruins this one. What an irritating game this is. Once you get to understand that it's less about shooting everything on the screen and more like a survival game, it's a bit better, but it's ridiculously difficult. Even the demo of the game is pretty much just the guy dying after 3 seconds. One hit kills you. When you shoot something, it then becomes an obstacle. There's bullets flying at you in all directions. Clearly it's an arcade game that's designed to eat money, but I can't imagine anyone put money into this one and then wanted another go. This one is a weird 3D Tetris sort of game. Getting your head around the controls is the hardest. I'm sure after enough time with it you get used to it, but most of the time it was just trial and error when trying to flip the block the direction I wanted it to go. I guess the controls have to be difficult, otherwise you're just basically putting coloured blocks together like a toddler. As they don't fall, you just choose where to put them, seemingly at your own pace. It can be difficult to figure out what shape block you've got, and getting any kind of pace going is particularly tricky. Still, for the most part, it's not fun tricky, it just feels like an idea someone came up with for a game, and you're trying it out to see if it's any good. There's a reason this design hasn't been done since. In Minky Monkey, you've basically got to do a monkey's bidding like Planet of the Apes or something. You've got to climb and retrieve a fruit that it asks of you and put it where it desires. The difficulty here is that there's a different monkey trying to screw you over at every opportunity. If it touches you or hits you with a projectile, you die. If it touches the vine that the fruit you're after is on, you pretty much have to start over. It's challenging, but it's not really that much fun. The best part about Minky Monkey is saying Minky Monkey. Minky Monkey. Clearly trying to take advantage of Indiana Jones in 1984, featuring snippets of unlicensed music and Dr. John, Mysterious Stones is a surprisingly fun game. You basically have to work your way through multiple rooms full of enemies until you find the treasure, which you then need to escape with to get it valued. Each room contains a bunch of objects that you can break, and in one of them will be a ghost with a key. Defeat that and you progress to the next room. The main issue that I had with it is that your character seems too tall to shoot most enemies that are in a horizontal row with you. It doesn't seem like it was supposed to be designed that way, as there's narrow paths you need to go down, but you can't get down them because there's a short enemy down there that you can't shoot. Still, this is a cool game that would have been a blast back in arcades in 1984, and it's still pretty fun now. This one was so close to being my Evercade Gem of the Week. The Coma Tribes is a brawler, but the levels are less sprawling and more self-contained. This one relies on cool animations for big moves that let you feel really powerful when you're swinging a guy around by his feet or smashing two heads together. You can have up to 3 players, which I thought would be really cool, but sadly that's where the game lets itself down. It just hasn't been designed with 3 players in mind. You can hit each other, which is nearly impossible not to do with how big you are and how small the levels become. There are sections that are so small and narrow that you have to organise each other to stand out of the way, whilst one of you throws punches and the other players just cower. It's a shame because this one's really memorable, but maybe just stick to 1 player or 2 players maximum. My Evercade Gem of the Week this week goes to Double Dragon 3. Usually my criteria for a Gem of the Week is something that's unknown, but whilst I was aware of the first 2 games, I had no idea that they carried on and made a 3rd one. Double Dragon 3 is very different from Double Dragon 2. The art style looks less cartoony. Personally, I preferred that art style. It controls a bit differently too, with much tighter controls, and it's added a weirdly amusing double team move where you link arms and do a spin kick. Generally, the moves look really cool and really have a satisfying sound effects when they land. The biggest selling point of the game though is that, like Coma Tribes, it supports up to 3 players. Unlike that game though, it feels like it was designed for 3 players. The areas are all big enough and you can't hit each other, so you're not constantly getting in each other's way. Games like this are so much more fun with more players. Check it out. Probably not one for the solo players though. The Technos Arcade 1 collection is okay, but there's not really anything worth shouting about. Now if you've got a couple of friends, you'll probably enjoy playing the Coma Tribes or Double Dragon 3, and being able to play those in 3-player is great. Previously, if you'd wanted to play a 3-player arcade game like that and didn't have the arcade, you'd be looking at an emulator, Raspberry Pi, and usually with those devices you tend to get controllers not working straight out the box, or buttons not being mapped, and that wasn't the case with this, which is excellent. I'd love to see more 3 and 4-player arcade games on the Evercade. The Mysterious Stones does feel like a hidden gem, but beyond that, it's just a collection of subpar games and hot garbage. For that reason, I'm going to score this collection a 5.5 out of 10. As always, thanks for watching. Do give the video a like, and if you want to see more of my content, please click subscribe. I'll catch you next time.